So we'll be diving into a little bit more about the program, what it is, how it's broken out, and I'll be answering any questions as folks have them. This is meant to provide a high-level overview. AFWERX has done a great job in building out the program and providing some content as well. Going to provide a little bit different perspective on how you get in and what some of the differences are. And so let's dive in a little bit to that. So the entire focus of the open topic program with AFWERX is a dual use approach. Large part of that is, hey, the government is shifting away from single use applications or tech that's just built for government to recognizing, hey, the commercial industry is moving a lot faster. There's more than $500 billion of commercial R&D happening in today's, every year in today's society. And that's by commercial companies that are building the best commercial tech that's out there, whether it be artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms, or drones, or even the next piece of hardware or a metal alloy. Those are the technologies that also have a military application. And so the government's leaning towards, hey, we want more dual use tech, because 98% of the stuff that the government and the military do, there's a commercial equivalent to. And so how do we leverage some of those best tips and techniques and find the best tech? And instead of saying, hey, here's a specific requirement to build to, the cool thing about what AFWERX is doing is an open approach, so that these companies can come in and say, hey, I have something that might be of interest. How can we pull that this direction? And so the Air Force has done a pretty cool thing with the open topic process, saying that, hey, anyone can submit if they have an idea on how to make the Air Force more effective, and specifically diving into, hey, what is the commercial tech that could be used? And so there's an open, anyone can submit. You have to be a US-based company, less than 500 people. We'll get to that. And the goal there is you can start driving that interest and engagement, find out who your potential customer is. And then there is still a specific topic process. And the cool thing about the specific topic is that there are identified end users or stakeholders that are interested in that product or solution. So the Air Force has a couple of different tracks to go on. If you find a specific topic, highly encourage you to apply for that is relevant to you. But if not, and even if you do, highly encourage you to still apply to the open topic process as a way to continue your customer discovery and your feasibility. This is a great way to help get in the door. And the really cool thing about the SBIR STTR program is that it gives you a sole source opportunity for any future contracts as well. And so the way that this works, whether it's open topic or specific topic, is that there's the phase 1 and phase 2 process. And then for the open topic and the ones going through the Air Force side, there's also the TAC-FI and STRAT-FI process. The goal for the Air Force is to take many small bets and jump in and say, hey, our whole goal is to identify many different companies that we might be working with. They're doing up to $75K for this next round of awards. It's a 3-month contract. And, they're looking at about 1,000 to 1,500 awards a year. This is meant to really open that door, and companies can discover, hey, is this really for us? Do we want to explore the dual use side? And then there's up to 3 solicitations per year. The one that's open right now is the 22.2. And so applications will open for that here in a week or so. The next one is you go from phase 1 where you're testing out that idea. Hey, is this a good piece? Is this feasible for us? Do we have the right customers in place? To prototyping, validating that is our product, tech, or service something that the government could actually use. You're leveraging R&D funding, so research and development funding for this. And so you want to be building a prototype, you want to be building something and validating its use case, right? So if you have a commercial applications with modifications or changes you need to make for the government side, and really building towards that, hey, how do we take our technology to the next level? So as you're going into phase 2, it's up to $750K for that initial award. There's also a direct to phase 2 option this round for $1.25 million. And the Air Force is going from many small bets to some medium-sized bets. So it's saying, like, hey, we think these 300 to 500 projects could scale across the Air Force. Let's go test and validate that across the department. And then there's an option for TAC-FI, STRAT-FI, and that solicitation is open now till June 30th. And the entire intent of the TAC-FI, STRAT-FI process, which are awards from $375K to $1.8 million for TAC-FI and $3 to $15 million for STRAT-FI, are to say, we've validated this prototype. We want to make sure that you're bridging that funding so that as the government has their funding cycles that are planned years out, This way you can be funded to the point that the Air Force has you now in the official funding process. And these help you transition your technology or capability to the point that it can be sustained and funded through those traditional mechanisms. And the really cool part about this is there's opportunities for matching funds from private investors and from other government stakeholders as well. It's a really cool process. If you are jumping in, never have done this before, right? It's a great way to get in the door, get a sole source opportunity to work with government, scale up and do some prototyping and validation, and then jump into some larger contracts and opportunities. So with the open topic, what's the difference between the SBIR and STTR side? So there's one solicitation that goes out for these. It needs to be a US-based company that is less than 500 employees. For the STTR process, you need to partner with a university research center or a nonprofit development organization to do at least 30% of that work. And so that's something that you have to consider if you're going the STTR route, is that it requires working with an organization to help you in that process. One thing that we've also noticed is, right, the STTR companies that are applying tend to be a little bit earlier in the process. They might have less customer validation, they might have less traction. And so the STTR process to help de-risk that engagement. And so some other things that can continue taking a look at, right, with SBIR and STTR are that they still have that phase 1, phase 2 process, right, where you're doing that discovery, you're prototyping. The phase 3 is not actually leveraging any of the program funding from the AFWERX program. It is customer funding, right? In this case, you've transitioned, you've found a government stakeholder that's willing to pay for your technology. And so that's something to consider. So STTR is more research-based as well, as we were talking about. It's for companies that might be a little bit earlier in that process. So this round also has the direct to phase 2. What's the unique thing about the direct to phase 2 is that, hey, you might be able to jump over that phase 1 hurdle where it's $50,000, $75,000 for 3 months and say, hey, we have a direct to phase 2 opportunity. And the cool thing about that is it's a potentially $1.25 million contract. You can say and do the work and share, hey, this is how we've engaged with the Air Force. This is where we've done our feasibility, who we've talked to. And one of the key things that it requires is a customer memorandum. So you need to capture that interest from those end users, from that customer, and saying, yep, this is what we want. This is how we want it. This is what we want to prototype, what we want to build. And so that's a key requirement for the direct to phase 2 process. Both the open topic SBIR and open topic STTR open now, as well as the direct to phase 2. So those are all open now to read the requirements, and then applications will open up here in a week. And so the things to think about as you're going after an open topic proposal, there's the volume 1 through 6. These are all the different requirements that are part of that process. A key thing to take a look at is here in volume 2. This is your technical volume. There might be some updates coming out from this before the solicitation officially releases. Be sure to be double checking that. The goal here is to provide content around 3 main areas as they're grading the proposal. The proposal is graded on these 3 criteria, right? Commercialization potential, defense need, and technical merit. The Air Force wants to know, hey, what is the pathway for this company to be successful commercially? What does that look like in terms of, has the company had any pre-sales? Has the company had any revenue? Had the company had any downloads or growth? What does that look like? Is there any commitment for follow-on money or opportunity for that company to continue growing? And so as you're looking at the commercialization potential, right, share what the revenue numbers are for your company, share where you're headed and how that's growing. And as you're be honest about who your partners are, where you're going, how the company has growth, and then what's the potential for growth. The entire purpose of the SBIR STTR program is, right, to help small companies grow and continue having them develop. And the Air Force is taking a dual use process. So, right, we want to see companies that are successful commercially and are successful in government. And so that brings me to the next part, right? What is the defense need? What is the requirement inside of the military, inside of the Air Force specifically, for your product, tech, or service? Who are those end users? Who are those customers? Clearly articulate that identify units if possible, individuals, whether they're through letters of support or getting a signed memorandum of understanding. So you want to dive into that and be able to specifically highlight these are the people that you're interested in working with. And then the last part is the technical merit. So you want to be able to say, yeah, hey, this is our technology. This is why it's effective. This is the peer-reviewed science behind it. This is the capability that we have. This is how we validated it, right? Some of that validation does come from the commercialization potential. If you've sold something and people are buying it, that's validating, hey, you're providing something that actually works. But also if you have something that is, a physics-based or chemicals, like why are those compounds different? What makes them unique? And what's the data that you can have to drive that forward? So you want to make sure you're taking in these three criteria as you're building out your application. You want to make sure you're including that information there in your volume 2. You also want to make sure that, hey, you're getting all the rest of the requirements put together as you're going through this. And this is stuff that we can definitely help with if you need it. So some tips and tricks for your proposals. So we want to make sure you clearly state what the research and development or test and evaluation criteria are of your proposal. You're going to be leveraging 3,600 funds, which are known as research and development test and evaluation funds. For this process, you need to be showing how this work is related to research and development of your core product, what is going to be changing, evolving, adapting through that. The second thing is ensure you're getting the right signatures on your MOUs. Is this the customer actually a customer that can fund this long term? Are they actually getting funding, or is it 1-year funding that they're looking to engage with you on? Make sure you have a bought-in TPOC, so your technical point of contact for your defense need. Get those letters of support and those MOUs. A engaged technical point of contact, someone that's excited to work with you, engaged in that process, is important. And then make sure you talk about the success of your commercial product in numbers. You want to be able to share that clearly and highlight that. And so it's something important to take a look at as you're building this out. And then lastly, leverage real stories. Tell those stories, make it tangible, make it sticky, engage with people in this process as they're reading it, have them buy into like, hey, why is this interesting? What is this game-changing capability that we're developing? That's something to take a look at as you're building out the proposal. As you're looking at those evaluation criteria, now you can go back and say, okay, this makes sense. I see how it all fits together. So big things to take a look at. Today we were highlighting and focusing on the Air Force open topic. There are SBIR, STTR proposals for the Air Force right now are due on 2 September. There are also a ton of other opportunities that are open right now. The DoD has a fair amount of things that are open, and it's across the Air Force, Navy, Space Force, Army as well. NSF has funding things open, and you'll see some interesting things coming up with NASA here as well that just got released recently today. And so as you're looking at how do you engage in the SBIR, STTR process, if you're looking to apply, read the pre-release information. We've gone over a lot of that here today, and we can dive into what that looks like. So a little bit about us here at the Outpost, why you might want to work with us. We are people who have been a part of this process to hey, we care about dual use. We're prior military, prior people who have built AFWERX, built SpaceWorks, been a part of the innovation movement. And now we're helping companies be successful out on the commercial side. We want to see dual use tech succeed, and we want to help it grow. And we want to continue sitting at that intersection of getting the right companies to the right capital with the right defense need and helping them grow and scale. And we've been able to do that really well over the last 2.5 years. We've helped over 300 companies win $250 million in funding. We've helped get over 100 MOUs signed. We're 100% on our large scale contract engagements. We do about 80% of our work is government focused, about another 20% is commercial focused. And the cool thing about that is that not only are we helping companies be successful in the government space, but we're facilitating commercial partnerships and opportunities as well. We just signed a few commercial partnerships, about $17.5 million worth there. And we're helping companies really understand how you transition to that phase 3 process, how you grow and scale. And beyond getting people just in that door initially, it's building out that entire strategy and engagement with companies as well. And so it's been a lot of fun to work with companies, not only for the Air Force open topic process, but we've had the opportunity to do some cool things with the Department of Homeland Security, with SOCOM, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, with Defense Logistics Agency, with NASA. And so we've done lots of cool things with various government organizations. We help with commercial solutions offerings, broad area announcements, SBIRS, TTR, help with the whole gamut of opportunities with working with government, and we're happy to help as you're engaging that. This is a little bit about our team. We've been a mix of about 20 people who are in prior military, commercial side, and are working in the to now help companies be successful. We have a creative director, a proposal writer on our team. And so the way that it works, if anyone's interested in engaging with us, is that you'll get set up with an account manager. We'll talk you through, hey, what is the strategy, opportunities? We're going to lay those out, set up an initial call, a data room, dive into that stuff, and then start building that proposal and hunting those opportunities with you. We do that relationship development. We do that proposal writing. We're going to engage with you in that process. We're going to get you involved with the right stakeholders and help answer questions you might have through that process. So I'll stop here and I'll answer any questions that folks have. So please jump into Q&A if you have any questions, and or you're also welcome to raise your hand and have a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Joey. I see that someone is raising their hand. So Oleg, you should be good to talk now.
It was an accident. My apologies, but very informative presentation. Thank you so much. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit about TechFi and StratFi opportunities, because our company has gone through the process of phase 1 and phase 2 like 3 times. And we've faced the valley of death every time, Air Force and Department of Energy in cybersecurity.
Yeah, well, thank you for that information. I appreciate it. Done another whole webinar on TechFi, StratFi if you want to dive in a lot deeper on that. So I can answer, a couple of questions, taking a look at transition there, right? It's, hey, who is that? What is that capability that thing to? What is the end user, like what is the requirement that the government is funding today in that process? Are you being put in for unfunded requests? Are you being put in to the POM process? Those are questions that you have to ask as you're a company facing the end of the phase 2 and looking to transition, right? What is that ongoing requirement that we need that goes beyond just developing a capability and prototyping it? What are those outcomes that organization is looking for that they're actually going to continue funding? As you're going through that prototype process, right? Those are some of the questions to be answering and engaging with on that government stakeholders and help facilitate and have some of those conversations as you're going there. All right. Any other questions or things that we can help answer?
I do have a question. So can you resubmit a proposal that was not previously selected for funding?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You can resubmit it. I recommend that you do update the information that is a part of that process, right? So make sure that you're hitting on the commercialization potential, the defense need, and the technical merit of it, right? Update those numbers, make it clear to the reviewers that, hey, these are the capabilities that you're working on. And dual use is a large part of that. Explain how that company and the technology is actually going to continue transitioning and growing.
Awesome. And you mentioned that making sure you're getting the right MOU signers is pretty vital for the success of your open topic submission. So do you have any recommendations for engaging with those potential end user customers?
Yeah. I would highly recommend, right? Part of that is that honest conversation and engagement. So whether it's meeting people up at one of the AFWERX Collider events, or it's meeting with people at industry days, or it's reaching out to them on LinkedIn, you have to build a relationship with these stakeholders and have that conversation with them about, hey, this is the technology, this is the capability, and this is what you're getting as a result of that. And so those are things that, as you are building that conversation with those MOU holders and stakeholders, it's where can this go? What does that look like? And being able to lay those different pieces out.
Thank you. We do have a question in the Q&A chat. They said, are you able to cross-propose among multiple opportunities like phase 1 and a D2P2, understanding you can only be awarded one? We were selectable, not funded, the best category during the last round. So trying to see all the options to increase our chances the next time.
Yeah, I would argue that's not the best round. That's the second best round. Selectable and funded, I would go with best. But I would say that yes, you can. There's nothing that says you can't propose to both. And you want to make sure that, hey, if you are proposing to multiple, right, you're either calling that out as part of the solicitation submission requirements, or you're submitting for different things.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. We'll give it a few more minutes for anyone who might have some last minute questions. But just for everyone's info, I'm about to send out Joey's contact info for anyone who wants to follow up after this. And I'll also be sending out an email that will have the recording of this webinar, as well as the slide deck for you to use as a resource moving forward. So I'll do that now.
Cool. Any other questions, or we can rock out from there? Feel free to reach out via email or set up a meeting and we can help out with any other questions. I would recommend reaching out to JOEY at theoutpost.cloud. So that would be the best place to go and connect with us and engage with us. So really appreciate it.
Yep, sorry, that was a typo on my end, but yes, the JOEY is the correct email. And yes, thank you again, everyone, for joining. And we'll hope to see you at our next webinar.
Thank you. See ya.